Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Kaylee. It's nice to meet you all. I am from CalMast, which is the Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths Engagement Centre based in Waterford Institute of Technology. The reason you're here today is, of course, because it is the Southeast Engineering Festival. We're really happy to have you all here with us today. The Southeast Engineering Festival is a joint initiative between Waterford Institute of Technology and the Institute of Technology Carlow, who are coming together to form Southeast Technological University very shortly in May. So we're very excited about that. For today, of course, it's International Women's Day. So hello and welcome to all our female panelists and of course our chair, Dr. Niamh, who will be with us today. As I mentioned, I am joined here by a panel of fantastic female engineers who are either from the region locally or working in the region at the moment. So they're going to share lots of wonderful stories, their experiences and their journey of where they are today. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to our chair of today's session, Dr. Niamh, who will introduce our panelists.
Thanks a million, Katie. Happy International Women's Day to you too. It's a great day, and it being Engineers Week, so it's double whammy. I'm delighted to meet you all today, and I hope you're having a great day. I know it's the top of the day for you, but this is the perfect time for you to hear some stories from 5 incredible women who are just slightly ahead of you and have made some decisions about their career, and they're all engineers. And they're going to explain to you about how they've gotten so far in their careers. It's always interesting, I think, to hear firsthand how people manage to get where they are. This is a session for you, so it's important that you ask questions. Now, I've tons of questions. I'll keep the questions going, but really it's your opportunity to find out as much as you can about what is it to be an engineer, what is it to be about a female engineer, and maybe about the particular places where each of these women work. You might want to know a little bit more. And they're all local. So they're just like you. So we have 5 amazing career stories to hear today. So we have Denise. Good morning, Denise. How are you? I know that you went to WIT and you studied building services and sustainable energy. How are you, Denise? Just quickly say hello, and then I'll go on to say hello to Charlotte. So how are you, Denise? You
Niamh,
good?
how's it going? Yeah, all good. Thanks.
Good. Happy International Women's Day to you.
Too.
Charlotte, you studied in Queen's University and you did chemical engineering. How are you this morning, Charlotte?
Very good, Niamh. Thank you.
Good.
Hi, everyone.
Lovely. I'll come back to you later as well. Catherine, who studied at IT Carlow, she studied civil engineering. Good morning, Catherine. How are you? You good?
I'm good. Thanks, Niamh.
Happy International Women's Day to you too. Grace studied both at WIT and IT Carlow in sustainable energy engineering. Good morning, Grace. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Very good. And then lastly, we have Jessica, who did electronic engineering at IT Carlow. Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
Morning.
Good.
How are you?
Good. Great. Okay, lovely. Well, that's great. We just had a quick hello. That's really all we've had so far. So let's break it down. Let's hear a little bit more about what it is like, the engineering that they did and how they've managed to get to work in the places that they have. So Denise, I called you out first. So you're the top person on my list. So I said that you went to Waterford IT, and I said that you studied building services and sustainable engineering, sustainable energy. But tell us a little bit more about how you got to work at Malone O'Regan, and also just how did you get to be an engineer? How did all that happen for you?
Yeah, I suppose I probably took the long road around it. I actually studied business initially, and my father is a mechanical engineer as well, a contractor. So I suppose throughout that degree, and when I was even working in the business field, I was kind of doing odd jobs for him and bits and pieces. So it kind of, I suppose, gave me a feel for that, for the engineering. So look, I suppose I was out working there for a few years and bit the bullet and went back to college to study building services engineering. So I done 3 years in WIT building services, and I suppose ended up working with Malone O'Regan. So we're consultant engineers. So I suppose you'd be looking at designing of heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. So really interesting work. Loving it so far. It's probably the best decision I ever made.
Brilliant. And how many years now are you out since your initial qualification?
I'll be just out 3 years now come June. So yeah, it's after flying, in fairness. So kept
Brilliant,
going.
but you love it. You love it. You're really glad that you studied engineering and the job is great. It meets all your expectations.
Oh yeah, she is absolutely love it now. Yeah, in fairness, it's very challenging, I suppose. Look, you're dealing with clients and contractors, and there's a mix of everything. You're out on site, you're in the office, but absolutely love it now. Yeah, sure. Every day is a learning day, I suppose. So
brilliant. Well, I'll ask you some more questions later. Thanks, Niamh. Thanks for that brief introduction. That's brilliant. Charlotte, so you studied at Queen's University and you did chemical engineering. Tell us a little bit about that and where you're at in your career and how it's all been going for you.
Yeah, so I studied chemical engineering with a year in industry up at Queen's. So I actually did a master's in chemical engineering as well. And so the way it worked in Queen's was you did a full year out to get an industry experience, and then you went back and did your master's. So
right, okay.
I actually did my placement as such here at MSD Ballydown in Tipperary, and then I came back here and got a graduate job after that.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so I'm on the graduate program at the minute. So it's kind of a 3-year program and you would get 2 rotations as part of that. So I just finished my first rotation there before Christmas, and then now I'm into my second one. But yeah, really enjoying
and
it.
what happens on a rotation? Like what you're working in different parts of MSD, is it?
Yeah, so it's all within the site, but you would maybe be in a different role. So beforehand, I would have been really hands-on working with the operators and the day-to-day factory production, whereas now I'm more working on the new introduction of products to site and new pharmaceuticals that are kind of up and coming and getting them introduced into our factories.
And what do MSD make? What do they do?
Yeah, so they're a pharmaceutical company. So this site kind of focuses on API and tableting. So API is an active pharmaceutical ingredient. So it's essentially what's in the tablet that kind of helps people. And it's the active in the tablet really. But that's what this site focuses on. But there's lots of other companies in Ireland as well, they do vaccines and biologics. So there's lots of new sites up and coming in Ireland.
Very good. And how many years are you qualified then?
So I graduated in 2020 and then started in September 2020. So a year and a half.
Yeah, and so far so good. You're loving it?
Yep, really enjoying it.
Brilliant, great, good. Okay, Charlotte, I'll be back asking more questions in a while. But now let's hear a little bit more from Catherine. So Catherine, you studied at IT Carlow and you did civil engineering. Tell us about your career so far and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so I'm graduated now, coming up to 11 years from IT Carlow.
Very good.
So I started my journey at WIT. And actually my journey began a little bit like this. So they had a Women in Engineering Week in WIT, and my science teacher at the time decided to take us girls to this Women in Engineering Week. And probably up until that point, I didn't have any thoughts about going down engineering as a career. And a bit like this today, they had a female from each kind of avenue of engineering, and there was one lady there that was a civil engineer. And that's where it stemmed from. Always had a love of maths and science. And then coming away from that, I remember going home and Googling, what is civil engineering? What do they do? And that's kind of how it started. So I did at the time 3 years in Waterford, and then went to Carlow to finish my honours degree. And graduated in 2011. And the following year, we moved to Perth, which is where I'm based now and living, and have been working with a civil contractor for the last 10 years. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into the industry.
And isn't it great that your qualification allows you to travel, that you're able to work in civil engineering in Australia? Was that difficult? Did you have to do an extra exam or anything for that?
No, so the degree in Carlow was recognised in Australia. So no extra exams. At the time when we moved here, it was on a list of skilled people. There was a shortage in Australia, so they were crying out for engineers at the time. So but the journey to Australia was made so much easier by having that qualification.
So you're talking to us now from Perth?
Yes, yeah.
What time is it there?
5:30 in the evening.
In the evening? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's great. You've just finished your day. So you've been celebrating International Women's Day all day.
Yes,
today.
We have.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Oh, that's really good. Well, we'll talk some more about that later. Thanks very much, Catherine. That's really interesting. So Grace, you also were at, like Catherine, you also were at WIT and IT Carlo. Tell us about your course and how you managed to do it and what you're doing now.
I'm sorry, Niamh, it was UCC that I was in, and
UCC.
then I changed to WIT. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Sorry about that. I'm just changing my notes here, Grace, making sure I get it right. Go on, tell us about what you did and how you managed to get to where you are then.
So when I left school, I was very indecisive. So I started doing accounting in UCC, and I didn't really like it, but I just finished the year anyway, did my exams in case I ever changed my mind, kind of thing. And then just entered the CEO again and started sustainable energy in Waterford. So I did that then for 4 years, and I just finished there in May last year. And since then, I've been working with Lawlers as a sustainable energy engineer. So I'm loving that at the moment.
Was it hard for you to kind of stop and go, right, I'm sorry, accounting isn't for me, and then to start again? Like, did you feel like, oh my God, I'm such a failure? Or like, was it tough? Was it a tough time for you to do that?
It was probably just tough because I hadn't a clue really. I was just so like, probably like most people like that are leaving school, like they're so stressed with doing their exams and everything. It's hard to kind of think about the future kind of when you're stuck studying every day. Like in hindsight, I probably would have just taken the year out, I think. Would have been better, or just because like I didn't have a clue. I was between about 5 different courses. They were all completely different. So it was very stressful at the time anyway, but it all kind of does work out in the end.
How did you figure out that it had to be engineering in the end? How did you make that decision? Because I'm sure lots of people listening are kind of going, they'd be the same as you. They just can't focus. They don't know what the difference is. How did you figure that out for yourself?
It was actually kind of by chance. Like I was just talking to one of my friends who was actually doing it in she was doing it she was starting it in CIT, and I'd never even heard of the course before. Like I hadn't heard of anything like it. And then I just went home, looked it up, and like I just looked at the modules and they all interested me. So that was it then. I just went for it.
Brilliant. Yeah, well,
never
good for you. Great. And so you're only out like less than a year at this stage, are you?
Yeah, literally just I finished in May, and then I went traveling for the summer and then started work. So I'm working about 6 months now.
Brilliant. Going well?
Yeah, all going well.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Okay, that's great. I'll be back to you for more questions anyway. And Jessica, tell us about your degree in electronics from IT Carlo. Tell us a little bit about that and how you managed to figure that out, and just give us a taste of how it all happened for you.
Yeah, so I started in the level 7 purely because I didn't have the qualifications for it. Engineering actually wasn't my top choice. I had a preconceived notion first about what an engineer was, because I didn't have any of these talks when I was in school. But I kind of fell into it by chance, but I wouldn't change it now. So I did the 3 years in the level 7 for electronic engineering, and then when I finished and done my exams for the 3rd year, they asked me if I wanted to continue and get on and do my honours degree in electronic systems, and I took it by. And so I did it and I love it. And then it took me a while, kind of about a year, to find a job, and now I'm with Irish Rail.
Irish Rail, very nice.
So I'm on the graduate program with Irish Rail now. I've been there for about 2 years and I'm loving it. It's great.
And where are you based?
In Dublin.
Oh, we're talking very good, very good, very good. Yeah, it's thanks very much for that, Jessica. And I think that you've brought up something which I think, and actually Grace as well, is this thing of like, when it comes to filling out the CAO form, you do feel that pressure of well, I remember many, many years ago, it seemed to me that everybody else knew what they wanted to do except me. I seemed to be the one that kind of couldn't make up my mind, and I was very stressed. So, Denise, was it hard for you? Like, I know for you, you were lucky that you had a role model in your dad and you could kind of see what it was. So did you always have a very clear understanding of what it was to be an engineer?
No, not really. Like I said, I'd studied business myself before as well.
Yeah.
So look, I suppose just to echo what Grace said there, I was kind of in the same boat, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And looking back, I suppose you're kind of pushed to go to college, you know.
You are.
There was never really talks about taking a year out or taking your time to decide what you wanted to do. And look, it's a long time since I done my leaving cert now. I think it was 2009. So they were nearly pushed into doing teaching or nursing back then. So look, no, I suppose it wasn't very clear, but look, I was lucky enough, like you said, I had a role model there, my father, and could do a few odd jobs with him and get a feel for the work and what it was. So but look, I suppose it's so young to be kind of knowing, I suppose, what you really want to do as well at the same time.
Yeah. And so what was that like then when you kind of figured out business wasn't for you and you had to do something more? Tell us a little bit more about that transition and how you kind of figured it out for yourself.
Yeah, I was working in fund accounting for 3 years, I think, and I don't know, I just it wasn't for me at all. And look, I was just doing bits for my father on the side, and like, I suppose I was lucky enough I could chat to him about it and get a feel for it. And I met up with he would have been good friends with one of the lecturers here in the college, so I just met up with him for a cup of coffee one day just to talk about the course and I suppose what it would entail. And like, the biggest thing for me, I suppose, I hadn't done honours maths in my leaving cert either, so I suppose that was the biggest thing. I kind of was thinking, you know, I always had a notion that Jesus, you'd have to be an A1 student at maths to be doing it, but look, he kind of, I suppose, reassured me that it'd be fine and everything like that. So that kind of what sold it for me, really. Yeah.
Very good. And you knew then that you were making the right choice when you moved into engineering instead of business, or were you still kind of going, I still don't know, but it's all kind of worked out for you?
Oh, no, geez, once I started the course, and look, it
Amazing.
was, I suppose the course was brilliant. It was kind of hands-on as well. Like, we done plumbing modules and carpentry and
oh, nice.
You know, like construction and just things like that as well. And look, it was, I suppose I was the only girl in the class there, and I know the girls are probably the same. There wasn't too many girls doing it. So it was good. I would crack as well with the lads as well. And look, no, it was brilliant and all worked out for the best, thank God.
All right, thanks, Denise. Thanks. And Charlotte, for you, did you always know you wanted to be a chemical engineer? How did it all kind of pan out for you?
No, so I was the same as these girls. Like, I didn't know when I was at school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just knew that I really liked maths and science. And then often, like, a lot of people are pushed towards like medicine then if they like maths and science, but I just knew that wasn't for me. So I just kind of knew that I really liked maths and chemistry, so I started looking at the different courses that were kind of available. And again, like the others, like, I applied for multiple different courses before I kind of made the decision. But something that kind of really made it for me was I went to an open day at Queen's College, and like got a look around the building, got a tour of like the labs, got to see like where I would be and meet some of the people that I would be like on the course with. And that kind of sold it for me then. And even like meeting other people on the course, like, you can just tell that you fit in and like that you have the same common interests as other people. So that's kind of what sold it for me mostly.
Yeah. And how did that feel when you met your kin or the people? And you just felt, these are my kind of people. What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, no, it was amazing, to be honest. Like, I knew that I'd made the right decision as soon as I met them. And it was actually really interesting talking to them because like I would have a few friends who are all girls on the course, so we kind of had a group of us together, and even speaking to them, they didn't know what they wanted to do when they were at school as well. It was exactly the same. Like they knew that they liked maths and science, but they just didn't know what was out there for them. So I think like they were really happy with their decision, and like they all have jobs in the field now, so it's great.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Charlotte. And Catherine, for you, like you were the same. Were you back when you went to do engineering, or did you have a very good idea of what engineering was? Tell us a little bit about all of that.
Yeah, not up until that point where I went to the day in WIT. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think engineering is something that's widely spoken about in all girls school. That might be changed. It's been 11 years now since I've graduated from uni, so however many years since I've graduated from school, but it wasn't something that was widely spoken about. It was kind of like you did your business so you could be an accountant, or there was no talk of a civil engineer or chemical or a mechanical engineer. So up until that day in WIT, I didn't really know. And look, honestly, even filling out my CAO form, I still wasn't entirely sure exactly what I was getting myself into. Like I understood what a civil engineer was going to be responsible for, but what it involved, wasn't exactly sure. I also wasn't, because we had been brought to that all girls day.
Yeah.
I wasn't even entirely sure how male dominated it was going to be until my first day when I walked in. But I would say, don't let that be something that puts you off, because if you love something, like, you'll enjoy it. And I've made friends for life, like from Carlo and from Waterford, that I still keep in contact with today.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into, and I think I just almost a little bit of luck where I loved it once I started it.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's the majority of people, though. I think there is a gap in the knowledge about what an engineer does, and I mean, it certainly was the case in my school as well. Grace, what about you? Did you have a very good idea of what an engineering was when you started, or did you know someone? Was there a role model that you had that helped you figure it out? Or tell us a little bit about that for you.
No, just as the girls were saying there, like I don't think I even knew in secondary school what an engineer was like.
Yeah.
I never even considered it, like, and I don't think it was ever even mentioned, say, like, because I was in an all-girls school as well, like I don't think it was even a thing to consider, because even though like I did technical graphics in school, which is probably like rare in an all-girls school.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't really followed up on. But even like I wouldn't even have considered like that it was a male dominated role when I even went into it. I was that oblivious. That's why you should probably look at, like, not that actually made a difference at all. Like, sure, as Niamh was saying, like, you would have the crack with the lads and everything, like, it's grand. But no, I literally went in not knowing a thing, like,
Yeah, thanks, Grace. So Jessica, it's kind of started to kind of seep in, and it's kind of the next question that I was going to ask, in particular for International Women's Day. What did you just like to give the people watching today? What was the percentage of girls to boys in your course, and why do you think there are less women doing engineering than men?
So when I was in college, I was the only female on the course.
No way! Oh my god!
For 4 years.
Wow.
So
how many were in your course? How many are in total in the course?
So we started with about 30.
Yeah. Oh.
That now obviously that dropped as the years go on, but yeah. So I was the only girl. We had like what Grace was saying, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I also went to an all-girls school beforehand, and engineering kind of wasn't really talked about. So going from the one end of the spectrum to another, from like being all girls to all boys, was a bit of a shock to the system for a while. But you get used to it. It's not any different really.
No. What about you, Charlotte, up in Queens? Was it the same? What was the percentage of girls to boys on your course?
So I'd say chemical engineering, there was a good few more girls. It was maybe like a third or a quarter girls, and then the rest would be boys. But our class was much larger, so there would have been 100 or so at the start in the class. But yeah, there were more girls than what I expected going in, to be honest, but that was great to see. And I suppose like even chatting to the other girls, like they were surprised by how many girls had actually like taken up chemical engineering. But yeah, it was really good to have them around.
Yeah, that's good. And Grace, what about you? What were the numbers like in your year?
So when I started off, I think there was about 15 in the course, like it was very small, and there was just 2 girls. So it was quite small.
Yeah.
But then like there is a mix, because our course was mixed with construction management and quantity surveying. So like there was more girls in them courses. And then I was actually mixed with Denise for some modules as well in college. So like, you know, it is mixed, and you do have the opportunity to like meet people from other courses as well, which is good.
Yeah, okay. Denise, what about you? In what was your percentage of girls to boys in your year?
I was the only girl as well. I suppose our course was very small now. I think only 3 of us finished it out. So like it was just me and 2 lads come the end of it. There was probably about 7 or 8 more fellas at the start of it, but a lot of them went off to do apprenticeships and things like that. But I suppose like Grace was saying, we kind of were mixed in with a few other modules, so it wasn't too bad, because I suppose if anyone was out on a given day, you could find yourself on your own with the lecturer. So
which is probably no harm. That's
no,
good.
it's not. Look,
one attention.
Yeah, it kind of gave a lot more, I suppose, personal feel to it. And look, but yeah.
That's terrific. And then yourself, then Catherine, what was it like for you? What were your percentages then in your year?
In WIT, we probably started out with, I would say there was close to 100 on that in that first week, and probably 6 girls. And by the time we graduated, it was just me and I don't know, maybe 50 guys, perhaps. And then when I went to Carlow, I was shocked because there was 2 other girls in the class. And there was probably less than 20 in that class, I would say.
It's interesting, isn't it? What's going on? Why is there this? Why don't girls do engineering more? What's not being communicated, do you think, having gone through the course and having finished it and realizing, sure, I could do this, anyone could do this? What's not happening from the school's end that we can do better to help people apply for jobs in engineering? Because it's a brilliant career. I mean, you know, and I know lots of female engineers. Denise, I know it's a tough question, but what are we not doing? What are we not, for you, what was missing for you in the school system for you to even consider engineering?
Yeah, look, it's probably moved on a lot since I done my leaving.
Yeah, of course.
So I suppose things are probably communicated a lot better. I know for me there was never any mention. We didn't even have a guidance counselor or anything in our school. So, you know, it was kind of you're left to your own devices and that. But look, I suppose a lot of it is probably people have a conception that construction, anything to do with construction, is going to be a male dominated art, you know. So I suppose it's just to change people's conception of it, really. And look, that's what you're trying to do today, I suppose, with events like this. And look, it's great to see, I suppose, like stuff like this going on in schools now, and obviously teachers and that are trying to push it a bit more as well. So it's very true. Jessica, what about you? What
what was missing for you to think, oh yeah, that's right, I could have done that, or you know, and finally it all starts to come together? What are we not doing well?
My whole perception of engineering for a long time was, I had this image of a mechanic.
Yeah, me too.
Standing with an overalls and a spanner, or someone on a building site. I didn't really understand what an engineer actually did. And I didn't, because it was in an all-girls school, we didn't really have those talks to kind of explain the different areas. Like, I did technology, so that's how I ended up getting into the whole area of electronics and stuff like that. And the only reason I managed to put it down on my CEO is because one of the lecturers from IT Carlow actually came into us one day just to give us an option about, like, he went through like the civil, the electronics and the mechanical, all the different areas of engineering. But it was only about, I mean, he was there for about half an hour. He told us about the courses, and that was it. Like, there was no follow-up there, I don't think, for us. And I think the only reason we had that is because our technology teacher could see that there was a lot of us in the class who would be well suited to it.
Yeah.
But it was very much a case of, even when, like, you know, speaking to guidance counselors, it was the perception that you should choose something that would be a good job as opposed to something that you would enjoy doing, you know.
That's very, I think you're right. I think that sometimes, well, I remember anyway, and I don't know if you can all agree with this, I remember feeling that the college course had nothing to do with my passions. You know, like, I was always really passionate about science and space, and it was always about like what kind of job you're going to get. But it isn't that it can be both. It can be both, that it'll get you a good job, and it can also be your passion. What about you, Kat? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how varied engineering was either.
No,
like,
that's
you
right.
can do a course and there's so many different areas that you can go into. It's not like, I did electronics, and the job that I'm doing now is only a small part of the entire course that I did. And people that I went to college with they're in so many different areas: design, structure. They went back to academia. It doesn't mean you're going to go into one different role.
That's the other thing as well,
interesting.
I think. Yeah, it's that thing that you think when you do your first degree, and for those of you that kind of started one and did another one, you think that it's going to define you for the rest of your life, but it doesn't really. Catherine, how would you describe what an engineer is? I think the word engineer doesn't really describe enough about the like what Jessica's saying, the vast breadth of things that you do. So if you were to explain in a couple of sentences, what would you say an engineer is? What kind of people are engineers? I know it's a really hard question.
Yeah, it's even hard to describe in a couple of sentences, because like Jessica was just saying, she's working in one small part of her field. So even with me in civil engineering, there's so many paths that you can take. Leaving uni, I always thought I was going to be sitting at a desk designing, you know, buildings and bridges and pipe works, and I suppose from a civil engineer, that's kind of what's put across as well sometimes, whereas I happen to fall into contracting by chance, and I'm the one building what the designer is putting together. But I don't know how I would describe it in one word, but it's, I suppose, always like a lot of problem solving involved in it. You know, a lot of innovation comes from it as well. There's so many ways to describe what an engineer does, and even like right now, I wouldn't know exactly what all the other girls do, you know, from
Yeah.
day to day,
Yeah.
because it's just so broad.
Yeah.
So that's why there's so much variety. Like when you say engineering, there's a whole world that's open to you. You just need to try and find which part interests you the most.
Yeah. Thank you. Grace, what is it that's like, you're all different kinds of engineers, right? So what is the common thing that all engineers are or have or think or do, or what is it?
I think that's kind of a hard question.
It's a really hard question.
I think what Katrin was saying, like, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what the other girls are doing, like, because the jobs are so varied. Like the same thing, like problem solving, a lot of innovation. Like with my job as well as a lot of research, because everything is so new in sustainability. Like constantly things are changing and growing. So like I would be doing a lot of research, and I know like Lawlers are involved in research projects with the EU. So there is like a lot of that involved. So like just very varied. Like a lot of it is like as well, you're dealing with contractors and different members of the design team. So like there's a lot of like say like you'd be used like a lot of people skills involved. It's not just sitting down designing or thinking of new ways to build this or that. Like it's very varied. Then you're doing site visits. You're doing like, you're not just office based. So like I think if one part of engineering didn't suit someone, there's definitely other jobs that you could easily change into that would suit you. It's not you're definitely not stuck in the one job, say.
No, so if you do any sort of engineering degree or course, more than likely you can probably move across into many other different types of engineering roles in the future. You know, you might need to pick up a few skills along the way that specialize in that particular discipline, but more than likely you probably can.
Definitely, yeah. Like even for like my job now, I'm consultancy based, but like say if I was to work for a contractor, like it would be a completely different job. But like, you know, easily you could make that transition. Like it's not that it's not like you need to go and do another course, another 3 or 4 years. Like it is it's easy to move around, I think, and to find exactly like what you like doing, and whether you like being in an office or site based or that kind of thing.
Really great. You know, we're nearly up with our time. We've got 3 minutes left. So I guess what advice would you give to our viewers listening in who think they might be a problem solver, they think they might have the skills of what it is to be an engineer? So it seems to me from what you said, an engineer is somebody who likes figuring things out, who likes breaking things apart and figuring out how they work, who likes to think with their hands sometimes or conceive. So it's kind of a creative thing, but it's quite a logical kind of thing, part of your brain as well. So if they're interested and they have those kind of brains, what advice would you give them that you wished you'd heard when you were at their stage in life? So I know it's a tough question, but you may as well. So Denise, what advice would you give them?
I suppose just from listening to all the other girls, this one thing kind of stands out, that they've had some point of contact, whether it be a talk like this or, you know, open day in the college, to just, if you are interested, just to find out more information on it and try and, I suppose, meet someone in person or over Zoom now is handy for that kind of thing as well. So look, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, people are there and they're always willing to help, and I know everyone's mad to get women involved in engineering now as well. So there's plenty of people there to answer any questions that you may have. So that probably be, I suppose, from listening to the girls, it seems to be the one kind of thing that kind of drove them into it as well. So that'd be my advice.
That's great advice. Thanks very much, Denise. Charlotte, what would you say? What advice would you say to them?
Yeah, I guess I would say as much as possible, try not to have this preconceived conception of what an engineer does. Like as the other girls have said, like there's so many different areas and so many different jobs across even the different engineering. So like reach out, find out what you're interested in and try and contact someone who's doing a job that
Yeah.
can really give you a feel for like what opportunities there are and what you would be doing day to day.
Yeah, really good, really good. Great advice, real hands-on advice, Charlotte. Thanks very much. Catherine, what advice would you give them?
Same again. Like at our schools, engineering wasn't something that, you know, when you went to your guidance counselor, it was that they had a lot of knowledge on. So
Yeah.
try reach out to a university or, you know, a female in the industry that you think you might you know, ask some questions to. And I mean, all of us are here now. If there's anyone that's listening today, if they want to, like, I have no problem with someone sending me an email if they want to get some more information on exactly what I do day to day. Ask the question, because that's the only way you're going to find out. And you might, if you don't ask the question, you might miss something that is, you know, you would love.
Yeah, very smart. Thanks, Catherine. Grace, what advice would you give them?
I think what Catherine said, is very important. Like, say nowadays, I think it's very easy to find out, like, to get in touch with certain people with social media and LinkedIn, kind of, for example. So if you were to get in contact with someone that was in the industry, just to find out like what their day-to-day role is, because like it's very different for everyone, and I think that's very important. As well, I think like leaving school, kind of not to follow your friends, like, 'cause I think that is a big thing when you're that age, just kind of want to stay with what your friends are doing and you don't want to leave them. But you can be assured that you'll make more friends when you go to college and whatever you decide to start studying that you like.
Yeah, it's so true. You do think like you're going to go where your friends are, but like your whole world changes when you leave school, and your friends will always be your friends. So you don't have to study the same course to stay friends. That's really, really smart advice. So thanks, Grace. And then Jessica, what else would you add to what you've heard so far?
I think the big thing for me when I was trying to choose what I wanted to do was to actually look at the subjects that I really enjoyed doing, that I knew I had an aptitude for.
Yeah.
And kind of look at the options that I had for those subjects, as opposed to, you know, the obvious choices that you can get. And like what the other girls said, it's so easy nowadays to get in contact with people, say unis or, you know, colleges, or even the likes of us from these talks and stuff. Because I guarantee any one of these girls here, and myself included, would have no issues, you know, talking to someone if they had questions about the job, because
that's right.
We do want to see more women in. It's good.
Yeah, it's great. It's very true. And I think that's the thing. I think like people that I've heard like who have ended up in kind of amazing jobs is like they've been the kind of people that reach out and write letters or emails and say, you know, I really admire what you do. How did you make it happen, or whatever? So don't be afraid to kind of take your career, you know, into your own hands, and yes, apply to the courses, but don't be afraid to ask more questions. I think that's very smart. Particularly in engineering, there are many female engineers, and I think all of us want to help you figure out how you can make it work for yourself. And there are many women out there who are doing a fantastic job and flying the flag for all women, and particularly on Women's Day, it's important to highlight that. So it's been a really interesting discussion. Thank you so much, Denise, Charlotte, Catherine, Grace, and Jessica, and wishing you continued success in your career. And you heard it here, they're only too happy to answer your questions if you want to follow up and contact them. So I guess it's I'm 3 minutes over time, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Kaylee. But thanks everybody, and happy International Women's Day.